The Beatles. The thing is, we're all really the same person. We're just four parts of the one. Paul McCartney. John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, Ringo Starr. The Beatles charged 20 number one single in the United States, 3 more than Elvis. Liverpool is the industrial city in England where the Beatles grew up. In those days, there were more people work out of there than any other place in the country. Merseyside was a section of Liverpool. It had many clubs where small bands played for teenagers. As many as 350 bands played there for very little money. The Mersey Beat was a newspaper known only to local beat music lovers until the Beatles made Liverpool and the newspaper famous. Liverpool had one of the first rock concerts. Alan Williams, the Beatles' first manager, held a 14-hour pop concert outdoors. Williams also owned the Jacaranda and the Cavern Club where the Beatles played. John Lennon. Stay until the baby is born. John Lennon was born in October 1940. His father came and went from his life frequently. John went to live with his aunt and uncle when he was 5 years old. See, and Mimi, I've written a story for you and I draw a picture too. John liked to draw. He also enjoyed listening to music. When John was 11, he heard Bill Haley and Comets on recording. Then he discovered the record of Elvis Presley. Are you listening to Rock Around the Clock again? No, something I just got. A singer named Elvis Presley. He's American and great. I'm glad you came to see me. I want to ask a favor, Mom. Can you buy me a guitar? Well, love, if I can find an expensive one, it's yours. A guitar's all right, John, but you'll never earn a living from it. When he was 16, John formed a music group called the Quarrymen. In 1958, his mother was killed by a car. And unhappy John was comforted by his friend Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney was born in June 1942. He was a good student, but bored in school. Paul, you can do much better than this. I guess I was thinking about music. His mother taught him how to play piano, banjo, and guitar. For a nurse, you're pretty a good piano player. For a smart talking boy, you're not so bad yourself. Paul's mother died when he was 14. He played the guitar so he would not feel sad. I need another guitar player for the Quarrymen. How about joining us? Yeah, maybe we could write some music too. So Paul joined the Quarrymen when he was 15. George Harrison. George, what's wrong at school? I'm getting bad reports. I don't know. Trouble just find me, I guess. George Harrison was born in February 1943. He had a happy home but was a troublemaker at school. At his teen, George was a British teddy boy, a bad guy. My folks are great, but I've got to be independent. My folks don't care if I'm alive or dead. If you took so long time to get interest in music, yeah, but I'm going to ask Mom for a guitar. George had no interest in music until he was 14. Then poor McCartney helped him learn to play the guitar. George isn't too young for us. It wasn't much older when I joined last year. He's mighty good on that quitter, so okay, George. George joined the Quarrymen in 1958. John changed the name of the Quarrymen to the Silver Beetle, then to the Beatles. The beat in the Beatles stood for beat music. The Beatles played at many of the clubs at Merseyside. John, Paul, and George were joined by Stuart Scruffy on the guitar and Tommy Moore on the drums. In 1960, Alan Williams, their manager, got them a date to play at a music club in Hamburg, Germany. Tommy was replaced on the drum by Pete Bass. They're making so much noise they can't hear us. They don't understand the words in English anyway. Just proud the chorus and scream the lyrics. At their drinking and dancing club, the Germans want loud music with a good beat. The Beatles gave them this. Okay, imitate the German soldier, march, march. Let's all imitate the soldier by high stepping. The Germans love to see the Beatles fool around and make fun of Hitler. The Beatles were overtired, often playing for 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. They lived in a run-down apartment behind the club where they performed. While they were playing for a rival nightclub, it was reported that George Harrison was underage. Without a work permit, George was deported home to England, except for Stuart, who left the band in Hamburg. The rest of the Beatles soon followed George home. During this time, a record store manager, Brian Epstein, was receiving many requests for a group he had never heard of. He started to make inquiries. Do you have the single My Bunny by a group called the Beatles? Epstein wanted to see what all the fuss was about. He went to a lunchtime concert at a Cabin Club down the street from his shop. Epstein thought that the band had great potential. I saw your performance and I think you have something special. I want to be your manager. The Beatles agreed and a contract was signed on January 24, 1962. I wouldn't touch that band with a barge pole. They didn't pay me my commission. Brian got in touch by Alan Williams, who was no longer the Beatles' manager. He wanted to make sure that Williams did not have any ties to the band. Epstein set out of the change of the Beatles' image. He believed a more clean-cut appearance would help the band more accepted by the general public. That's not the look I want for all of you. I'll pick new clothes for you to wear. Epstein tried to interest several recording companies in the Beatles. They turned him down. You should realize that the Beatles will be bigger than Elvis Presley. Go back to your store business, Brian. Finally, Epstein persuaded George Martin of EMI to listen to the Beatles. They have something, yes. I'll be their recording manager. John, Paul, and George began to be a little upset with Pete Bass. We're a group. Pete forgets it. He acts like he's one-man band. Martin insists that Pete Bass did not fit into the group. Epstein liked Pete but had to let him go. I'm sorry, Pete, but we have to do with what EMI says. I'll file word. In August 1962, Ringo Starr became the Beatles' drummer. He was later called the luckiest and non-drummer in the world. But as the fourth Beatle, Ringo Starr held his own with the others. Ringo Starr. Richie Starkey was born in July 1940. He became Ringo Starr. I wish I had a brother and sister to play with. You're enough for us, but I wish we had a bedroom. Due to several illnesses, Ringo was in and out of the hospital until he was a teenager. He's still too weak to go home yet. Ringo met the Beatles in handbag. He was playing with another group. I live behind our club too. Those rooms are worse than these. I'll take the condition in Liverpool any day. Do you like Liverpool better because of hairdresser named Martin Koss? Music group had always recorded material written by someone else. I can find a song I like for Beatles. Martin let the Beatles record Love Me Do, written by John and Paul. A group has never recorded their own song before. Someday all music groups will record their own song. In January 1963, the Beatles' recording of Please Please Me reached number 1 on the UK chart. In February, they went on their first national tour. I don't believe all this. Believe me, I wish there were more police. In May, on their third tour, they had top billing. It was then that Beatlemania, the fans screaming, fainting, and rioting began. In October, the Beatles appeared on British TV. They bloody were better let me in. I've been here all day. The show was called Sunday Night at the London Palladium. The theater was mobbed all day. When they returned from a successful tour of Sweden, the airport was mobbed. Believe me, I've never seen anything like this in my life. In November, they appeared on the Royal Variety Show. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, Princess Margaret, and Lord Swanston attend. Those of you in the cheaper seat, clap your hand, and those of you in the expensive seat, just rattle your jewelry. There were 250,000 advance orders for the Beatles' second album, with the Beatles beating Elvis Presley's Blue Hawaii. There were 1 million advance orders for their single, I Want to Hold Your Hand. In December, after the Beatles' Christmas show, the London Times called the Beatles the outstanding English composers of 1963. The Sunday Times called them the greatest composer since Beethoven. When the Beatles had 4 solid hits in America, Brian Epstein booked their first United States visit. 10,000 fans greeted them at Kennedy Airport. On February 9, 1964, 73 million people watched the Beatles on Ed Sullivan's show. I love their accents. I just love them. The Washington Coliseum was jammed for their concert. They're too noisy to hear us. When they scream, I just pretend to sing the word. After the concert, the British Embassy gave a party for them. One girl cut off a piece of Ringo's hair. After 2 sellout shows at Carnegie Hall in New York, the Beatles appeared on a second Ed Sullivan show in Miami Beach. After it was over, they rest on a private boat. The police sergeant, who was in charge of the security, invited them to his house for dinner. We thought you should see what most of America like. The Beatles were mobbed on their return to England. How much money is their police protection costing? It doesn't matter. They're the best expo we ever had. I say God bless the Beatles. Their records were all hits, and so was John Lennon's book in his own rights. I've already read it but want my own copy. My mom wants a copy and so does Granny. The Beatles toured Europe, Hong Kong, Australia, and New Zealand. They were met by recording crowds and screaming fans wherever they went. All over the world, boys were copying the Beatles, their hairdo, the bottom-down shirt, knitting ties, and Cuban heel boots. In 1964, the Beatles' first movie, A Hard Day's Night, opened. The reviews were excellent. It was directed by Richard Lester. They have the kind of magic that Marx Brothers have. Movies with pop stars in them have always been poor. This is different. It's original. A Hard Day's Night was about the Beatles themselves, but making fun of themselves. It was about how they felt imprisoned by their own success. In the movie, they were always being chased by fans, they dealt with reporters, nonsense questions, and they were put down by people in power. In August 1964, they made their first big American tour. The Beatles gave 31 performances in 24 cities. All attendance records were broken. I still feel as if someday they will tear me apart. I wish we could really see some of the places we're visiting. The press found the boy well behaved but odd and funny. What about the movement in Detroit to stamp out the Beatles? We have a campaign to stamp out Detroit. How do you and John write music? We do two things to write a song. First we sit down, then we think about writing a style. The Beatles actually slept on this. After Beatles stayed in one hotel, the owner cut up their pillow into 160 tiny squares. He sold each one for $1. Anyone working here with a Beatle mop hairdo has to wear a hairnet. In England, boys who wore their hair like the Beatles had to wear a hairnet in many working places. Everywhere in the world, fans bought Beatle posters, books, magazines, factions, and wigs. After A Hard Day's Night, the Beatles' musical style changed. They sang more ballads and the music was not as simple. I still love their first record, She Love You, Yeah, 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 Yeah. But have you heard of Paul's song Yesterday? It's about lost love. Have you heard of the album Rubber Soul? The Beatles, great, man, just great. The Beatles, the most original group to come along in years, great. The Beatles were different from most other singer and pop groups. They were liked by almost everyone, males, females, children's parents, and grandparents. After their 1966 tour of the United States, all the Beatles were millionaires. They loved their fame, but it brought trouble too. I'm afraid that some fan might pull Zack out of his plan and kidnap him. Ringo married his Liverpool sweetheart, Marion Coss. They had two sons at the time, Zack and Jason. What are you doing here? We want to see John's wife and son. In 1965, Beatles were awarded the MBE members of the Most Honorable Order of the British Empire by England's Queen Elizabeth. They've brought a lot of money and fame to England, just for a lucky lads from Liverpool. We export coal, but the Queen did not honor the miners with medal. Many former winners object to a pop group being so honored. Some send their medals back. We love you, Beatles, yeah, yeah. Luckily, they don't know this is our last British tour. We had a riot. In August 1965, the Beatles appeared at Shea Stadium in New York. The police were keeping busy by picking up fainting girls. In December, the Beatles made their last personal appearance tour on England. Also in August 1965, the Beatles movie Help was released. Richard Lester also directed this movie. It was well received and funny, but not as successful as A Hard Day's Night. Help was a take of the British spy stories. It centered on a ring that Ringo was wearing. A mad scientist wanted a ring. In 1966, the Beatles went on a world tour. It was to be their last world tour together. We loved them here. Everybody loves the Beatles, even when they can't understand their words. But the Beatles made some people angry when John made a foolish remark. The Beatles are now more popular than Jesus Christ. They installed religion. Then John made a public apology. He explained that he didn't mean to be disrespectful. In 1966, George Harrison married Patty Boyd, a top British model. Later they went to India. This is what I want to play, a sitar. How shall we free ourselves? Meditate every day. In India, the Harrison studied with the Maharishi, a well-known religious teacher. Later, all the Beatles worked with him. They continued to produce hit records and songs. Revolver, SGT, Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Strawberry Fields Forever, Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite, and Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. The lyrics for Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite were taken from an old English music hall poster, and the lyrics for Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds came from my son Julian. That's what he called one of his drawings. People try to find meaning in our song. Sometimes we don't even know what they mean. In July, 150 million viewers watched the Beatles TV show, Our World. Look, they're using harps, sitars, and sitars. They're always full of surprise. Brian Epstein died suddenly in August 1967. The Beatles missed his friendship and management. In December, the Magical Mystery Tour was shown on British TV. Written, directed, and starring the Beatles, the film showed their inexperience in movie making. Reviews were poor. In England, they have a mystery tour. We don't know where we are going until you get there. That gave me the idea for this film. After this TV show, the Beatles announced plans for their new company, Apple Corp. Paul was the head. We need a business manager. Aside from recording their own music, they plan to help other people with good ideas. Apple Corp closed in August 1968. It has been a disappointment. We were too generous with our money, and the people we trust were untrained. In early 1968, all the Beatles went to India to study. Well, we are not alone. The Maharishi has quite a following: Hollywood movie stars, big shots, and us. In July 1968, a cartoon movie of the Beatles was released. It was called The Yellow Submarine. This is an easy movie to make. We just watch while the artists draw us. Well, we do appear for a few minutes and they use our voices. The movie showed that music and joy could overcome the enemies of happiness. The Beatles films were unique. In 1969, John Lennon was married to Yoko Ono. John was changed. He is interested in strange causes now. Paul McCartney married Linda Eastman, an American photographer. I want to release my solo album, McCartney. If you do it, it will hurt the sales of Let It Be. More and more, the Beatles were going to separate ways. I don't like our managers, Alan Kerr. Well, he helped us with our old contract with Epstein. Let's talk about something nice, like our last album, Abbey Road. John returned his MBE medal as a protest against the war in Biafra and Vienna. He also appeared in anti-war movies. In May 1970, the Beatles movie Let It Be was released. None of the Beatles attended the premiere. This was a semi-documentary showing the Beatles working together and fooling around. It also showed John and Paul disagreeing with each other. In this saying, let's blah blah blah, that's a good idea. They never finish their sentence, yet they understand each other perfectly. The Beatles made several albums separately from the group. My album, McCartney, is doing well, and so is my single, Give Peace a Chance. And now I'm a composer too. All Things Must Pass is doing okay. I may not have recorded, but and the movies as an actor. In December 1970, Paul filed a suit in court demanding that the Beatles no longer be considered a group. I didn't leave the Beatles. The Beatles have left the Beatles, but no one wants to say the party is over. Any other group have gotten replacements for members who left. But the Beatles were made up of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and Ringo Starr. No one else would do. John Lennon. On December 8, 1980, John was shot and killed in New York City. The 1971 song Imagine took on a whole new meaning after his death. Ringo Starr. Starr is active in music, television, and film. Many drummers today list Ringo as an influence. George Harrison. Harrison died of lung cancer on November 21, 2001. Everything else can wait, but the search of God cannot wait, and love one another. Sir Paul is still active in music, classical, electronic pop, and final scores. He was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 1997.